All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've all gotten something to eat and are ready for the presentation, Saving Finland in America by Finlandia Foundation National. There are still a few sandwiches over there, so people who are coming in can still grab something, but it looks like the seats are quite full, so we're so glad that you're here. We want to say a big thanks to FinnFest for allowing us to be here today to have this session with you. Definitely a huge thanks to the Finlandia Foundation staff, who I'll mention a little bit later. They're an integral part to making this foundation work. And to all of our board members who have showed up today, our local affiliates. A lot of you are friends from a long time, and some of you are probably new to us, and that's awesome too. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Just to introduce the panel quickly, starting over here, we've got David Maki. He is the director of the Finnish American Heritage Center and Finnish American Reporter. You all probably get his publication, and if you don't, we can hook you up for sure. We have the president of the Board of Trustees of Finlandia Foundation National, Anne-Mari Paster. She's joined us today. We're honored to have Tim Nurvala, who is also on the board and is part of our Saving Finland in America task force. Tim is here today to give his perspective on the work that we're doing, and we're glad that you could be here. So welcome, Tim Nurvala. And my name is Tommy Flanagan. I'm the executive director of Finlandia Foundation National, and you will hear more from me later. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to hand it off to you, David.
Thank you, Tommy, and good late morning, everybody. For those of us who came from Eastern Time, it's actually afternoon, so good midday to you all. As Tommy said, I'm Dave Maki. I'm the director of the Finnish American Heritage Center and managing editor of the Finnish American Reporter, and the living, breathing example of why we're all here today, I assume. I'll just give you a brief rundown of my background. I've been a Finnish American all my life. I was born and raised in the UP of Michigan, and I liked it there so much I never left. I'm a native of Mass City, Michigan. Show of hands, anyone who actually knows where that is. I'm in friendly crowd right now. I studied at Northern Michigan University, and after graduating from NMU with a degree in broadcasting, I realized quickly that I have a face for radio and a voice for print. So I opted for a career in print journalism. My first gig was at the Daily Mining Gazette out of Houghton, Michigan. After a year there, I realized that the deadline-driven world of daily newspapers was not conducive to a person who was about to be married and hopefully one day be a parent. So I kept my eyes open, and suddenly in early 2000, there was a job opening at Finlandia University. They had recently acquired the Finnish American Reporter from the Tyrmias Society. I saw that opportunity and I said, oh my goodness, a journalism job with one deadline a month rather than 30. I very quickly realized that operating the Finnish American Reporter was not as much a journalism job as it was a cultural job with a journalism component. And I've been doing that job and variations thereof that job for literally half my life. I've just reached my 23-year service anniversary with the Reporter back in late February, and I'm now just a bit beyond the half. It's a little less than half my life that I've been working in Finnish American culture. So you can imagine what it was like the morning of March 2nd. It was a day like many others in the UP. There was snow on the ground, but the sun was out, and my wife and I had taken the day off. We were going to watch our oldest daughter perform in the local high school band festival. Her high school band was one of several that were, in essence, being judged by some folks from out of town to let them know how good they were and where they could improve. My wife and I got to the auditorium where this was taking place, and suddenly my pocket was vibrating like it had never vibrated before. I was getting text after text after text. Dave, are you at work? You need to come to work. Check your email. there was an email that I finally looked at while sitting in the auditorium waiting for my daughter to perform. And the email said, mandatory campus meeting, 3 p.m. Cancel classes, close your offices, everybody must be there. We all know what that meeting was about. Many of us knew that Finlandia University, being smaller and in higher education, it's not an easy time to be small and in higher ed, but being of Finnish American background, like many of us in the Copper Country are, we thought, we've heard this before, we'll hear it again, we'll put our shoulder deeper into the wheel, we'll push it up the hill, everything's going to be okay. Except this time it wasn't. Circumstances that are best discussed in an audience other than this one led to that being that Finlandia University just couldn't make it another year. So there we were. 4 o'clock p.m. I found out I was likely out of a job. 6 p.m. I had gone home for a while. Then my wife and I, we decided that I needed to do anything else to take my mind off of that day. So we went to a local basketball game. And everybody there, whether they were Finnish or not, most people in the Copper Country are Finnish. They all said, oh my goodness, I heard, how are you doing? What's going to happen? I had no idea. But during that basketball game, I got another email. It was addressed to me rather professionally, but rather informally. Dave, we need you to meet with HR tomorrow morning at 9. Bring your keys, bring your laptop. I don't remember who won the basketball game, but I went home thinking, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? But equally importantly, what's going to come of that Finnish American Heritage Center? Who is going to protect that building, that collection, its contents, everything under that roof? So I'm sitting home in the evening, wondering this in every way my vocabulary can wonder it. And then at 10:30 p.m., I got another email from current Finlandia University president who said, good news, folks, your layoff notice is rescinded. You can come report to work tomorrow, and what's going to happen is Finlandia Foundation National has made arrangements after an emergency meeting to sustain operations at the Finnish American Heritage Center and all of its components for the next 3 months so they can sort out how to stabilize things for the months to follow. So the next morning, I opened up my laptop, and I had never received that many emails in one day in my life. They were from Finland, they were from Chicago, Seattle, the East Coast. I won't name every place I got an email from because I know I'd leave somebody out, and I don't like to leave anybody out. But everybody reached out. I've heard. What can I do? What can we do? How can we help? And I knew right then and there that I was in the right place at the right time, and I intend to stay in this right place for the foreseeable future. I will tell you, and this sounds very much unlike me, but I never printed a resume. I never applied for another position. I knew where I belong was to serve the people of Finnish America, the friends of Finnish America, through my role at the Finnish American Heritage Center. And because of what has happened from that date to this point, and what I expect and hope will happen in the days to come, I'm very, very grateful for the opportunities I've had, and I'm very, very hopeful that with folks like you, I'll be able to have more opportunities to share stories that are a little less ominous than the one I just told, but with equally rewarding results. And with that, I'm all out of emotional baggage to share. So I would like to now let you know that we're about to see a video that was created that perhaps tells the story about why the Finnish American Heritage Center needs to be saved in a more eloquent way than I just did. So thank you for the time.
Every Finn, of whatever percentage Finn you are, Every Finn owes that, the preservation of our heritage, your heritage, my heritage, that it be preserved. They owe that to their own heritage. They owe that to the people who came before. And it's our obligation as Finns to preserve our history.
In March of 2023, with the announced closing of Finlandia University, its many cultural and historic assets faced an uncertain fate. Finlandia Foundation National, the largest independent supporter of Finnish heritage in the United States, took actions to secure the future of the Finnish American Heritage Center. This includes its irreplaceable archives and the most extensive collection of materials related to Finnish American history, the living culture of the Finnish American Folk School, the Price of Freedom War Museum, the Finlandia Art Gallery, Northwind Bookstore, and the Finnish American Reporter. We call this initiative Saving Finland in America. This is the beginning of a multi-phased project. It requires securing the physical space to accommodate more than 40,000 artifacts and archival material, and all of the various functions of the Heritage Center. It is important that we digitize records to make them available to researchers around the globe. And in order to protect and preserve these treasures and history for the long term, we plan on creating an endowment.
One of the things that has to be remembered is that preserving the heritage archives is also preserving Finnish immigrant family records. There's a lot of situations which families have turned over their papers about their lives as Finns in America, from naturalization papers to all kinds of things, including a huge photograph collection, which is also unduplicated anywhere else, and it's of great value. Music manuscripts, of course, as a musician, that's where I did most of my research. There's manuscripts, there are brass band books. Some of them were brought over from the old country.
My favorite thing, though, at the Finnish American Heritage Center is just to visit the library and the archives. A lot of my relatives and friends ask me, well, why does it matter to know about our parents or grandparents once they're gone, or the country our grandparents left, after all, because we're Americans now? And my answer is that it matters because it helps us to understand ourselves, and not just family history in the way that archives display it in front of you and you can hold it, but also our qualities, our character, you know? I am 100% Finnish by DNA. And so I have come to understand a lot what sisu, for example, and stoicism means in my personality. And I have a faith, actually, that there will be more interest in family history in my own family and others like mine as time goes on, as the next generations grow up and start to wonder, like most of us do, where did I come from? Or why am I that way? And the archives help to answer those questions.
My father came here first in the year 1887.
Imagine hearing the voice of a relative you've never met, thanks to the oral histories recorded and archived at the Heritage Center, or seeing the belongings carried by immigrants to their new life in America. The Heritage Center has an incredible collection of Finnish glass, textiles, national costumes, original Marimekko dresses, and works by Finnish and Finnish American artists. Rare items include 2 of the first Bibles translated into Finnish. They date to 1642. The center preserves documents and records of organizations and churches, and hundreds of periodicals and newspapers dating back to the 1800s. This collection tells the history of Finnish America, a story told nowhere else. The center is also home to the Finnish American Folk School, which offers the opportunity to learn the heritage, contemporary arts, crafts, and music of Finnish America.
My involvement with the Finnish American Folk School has consisted of taking classes, workshops, involved with learning traditional Reiki laulu songs, also Runo laulu songs. So the resources over there, to summarize, are fantastic. The online courses specifically for me, I live in Minnesota. I mean, it is incredible to be able to reconnect with my Finnish roots. And so after taking the folk singing classes, I visited there in person, which was a fantastic experience. I was involved at Heikenpäivä, and it is so important to have a resource like this for our Finnish heritage.
We had a box full of medals, Winter War memorial medals for those volunteers that Canada and US sent to Finland in 1939.
When we spoke at the opening of the museum, they were asking Harry what his objective was, and Harry had always said that the objective was to let young people know about the war, not to glorify it, but to tell what a price war has.
And remember what our parents and grandparents
exactly
did to keep Finland free.
Yeah, so now it was in a place where there were young people.
I think it gives the rest of the Americans something to think about too when they see Finland's heritage displayed nicely somewhere.
And Finnish people's what they've done for the country too. I mean, Finns have had a good positive impact on America.
The Heritage Center Archives is a pillar of the celebration of Finnish American culture in the United States. And so it needs to be preserved. I think this is a crisis moment, and it's an existential moment, shall we say, in terms of being able to share this information with future generations. You can't share it if it's not there.
And I really hope you join me in agreeing that we've just got to keep it going, and not just for us, but for the generations coming who don't yet know how important it will be to them.
This is a part of our identity that is too precious and too important to lose. Keeping it alive embodies our mission. It is why Finlandia Foundation was founded 70 years ago. It is our privilege to lead this effort, and we invite you to join us.
It's really important. I mean, this is one of those things whose time has come, and there will be no other time. You break up this collection, this archive, and you disperse it, it will never come back. Never. You couldn't duplicate this anyway. So it's not like this is something that can be done tomorrow. It's something we have to do today.
So I will continue from here. I'm Anne-Mari Paster, and I have not been Finnish American my entire life. I have only been Finnish American for the last 30 years. But my children are true Finnish Americans, and so is my grandson. And those future generations, they are the reason why I do this. Okay, now I'm starting to cry. This is not a good thing. But anyways, let's rewind a little bit and go back 5 months. And what did we do at Finlandia Foundation National when we got the news in the beginning of March? We all got the same email, and it was shocking. And the phones started ringing, numbers were dialed, calling back and forth. I'm like, okay, we have to do something. I called an emergency board meeting for Finlandia Foundation National. Everybody participated because they knew something bad is going on. And we discussed the status of Finlandia University and what can we do, and what can we specifically do to Finnish American Heritage Center and all that it comes with. And the discussions were had, and lots of optimism was shown. And we decided if we don't do this, who will? We have to take action. We had no alternatives. And from that moment on, I have been waking up in the morning and going back to sleep in the evening thinking failure is not an option. So we got this emergency meeting done. We made a decision that we have to, as David already said, we have to support the staffing there. We cannot let them go because they are the most valuable asset to this besides the personal property. We start inventorying things. Thank goodness the staff had a pretty good understanding of what is going on. And we start negotiating with the president of the university. Everything goes well. He was extremely supportive of our actions to protect all the documents and archives and galleries at the Heritage Center. We are ready to sign. And President Pino is at the airport in Florida coming back from vacation. He had promised that he will sign it before he goes to the airplane. And basically on that moment, the receiver was appointed. Oh no, he cannot sign it anymore. We have to start all over again. So another meeting. We had meetings. We created a task force actually for this, and we met every second day. We had meetings. And note, I'm the only one who is retired. Everybody else they have regular jobs, but they still put all the hours into this project. But we start then negotiating with this new party, the receiver, and we decide that, okay, we have to make a visit to Hancock. So Mika Vendel and myself, we fly to Hancock, meet with the city officials, we meet with the staff, and we meet with the receiver's team. And we're trying to figure out how do we make this work, and we negotiate. And I told the receiver, look, if we don't get this done, you and I will never come back to Hancock. Just bundle it all up and let's go with that. Well, it went on, and again, we are ready to sign a deal when they realize that there is a lien against the personal property, and we start all over again. In the meantime, we have hired lawyers. Receiver doesn't like the lawyers, so we have to be a referee there also, but it's okay. Well, we can deal with that. That's just work. But all the good things happen to me while I'm in a car. So one day I'm in Washington, D.C., going to another Finlandia Foundation event, and I got a call from the receiver. I have solved the problem. And from there on, we had hold on to this personal property, and they are protected. We had secured them. We had a hold on them. So that was great news. Well, in the meantime, we hired an engineering firm to take a look at all the properties. We visited the properties, and some of them are pretty, they need a little bit more love than we had thought. But Finnish American Heritage Center, it's a solid building and it's a solid property, so we decide that we will go with that and think about what we can do going forward. So this is the continuous dialogue. We are negotiating a little bit more, and all I'm thinking, failure is not an option. We had a hold on the personal property now and all the archives, which is great news. But we need a home for this. But in the meantime, the receiver was very kind because he has allowed us to be at those premises rent-free, that's a big deal for us. So we've been staying there. David and Joanna and all the others, they have continued business as usual. They have worked with a whole lot of faith in us. David called me like, how about next month? How about next month? Like, am I still here? I must stay there, don't go anywhere. So he does it, and it's great. And in the meantime, we have to work, as now we are renters, so we have to figure out the lease arrangements, insurance arrangements, we have to do the payrolls, we have to do the whole 9 yards, utilities, oh my goodness, what are we going to do, and IT. But we figure it out, and we have a great staff doing all that work. Again, there have been issues, and we have tried to avoid the auction paddle, so that first, for the personal property, we didn't want anything to go to auction because it would have been destroyed. So we got them. Now we have been negotiating about the buildings, and just 3 days ago, I was offered auction paddle. That's fine. It will go for auction. That's fine. I said, okay, fine. And they kind of like revealed their cards. So I'm like, okay, I'm fighting against the auction. So we gave our offers, and we have been discussing this. And again, good things happen in a car. Yesterday, while I was driving here, I got a call, and now we have a hold on the property. So now we just have to figure out how to pay for that. But we are holding on to that right now. So it's all good, and I really look forward to the future with all this, and I want to get to the closing of everything, and we have lots of plans, online presence and such, to make this available for the not only Hancock but for the entire world. So this is what we are doing, and what I am personally, what my personal commitment is, that failure is not an option, and I'm doing this for my grandson, and hope that this is my legacy to him, and he will appreciate it one day.
Well, I have a couple jobs today in my portion. Of course, I'm a full-time employee of Finlandia Foundation, so I get to answer a couple frequently asked questions. However, I want to highlight what Anne-Mari said. I started this job as the executive director of Finlandia Foundation National in February. It was February 21st, 2023. So 30 days has September, February. Not very many days later, the biggest thing that has really ever happened in probably the history of Finlandia Foundation National, the biggest decision to make, happened in my first 2 weeks on the job. You know, how do we handle an emergency board meeting? I don't know. But we got it done. And I have to say my background a little bit. Coming to the foundation, I was a part of a group called the Young Leaders Board, which the board of Finlandia Foundation National created to sort of address a generational issue of how to get more and younger and a wider audience involved. And that was during the pandemic, and I had been sort of adjacently aware of Finlandia Foundation National when I get an email through my Finnish teacher. Okay, never join a Finnish class. You'll get involved really quickly. From Anne-Mari, and about sort of an interview to be on the Young Leaders Board, and that was very cool to me, and I was surprised that she found 8 Finnish American sort of young people to be on a board. One of them was her daughter. I think that was forced, but in the first meeting with Anne-Mari, she told me for this Young Leaders Board, the sky's the limit, and failure is not an option. So this is the leadership, though, of Finlandia Foundation National. I have to highlight that. This is the mentality with which we've been going forth in the recent past, and really over 70 years. This is our 70th year of Finlandia Foundation National, founded in 1953. Yep. And many of you have been members for your whole lives, and maybe your parents and your I don't know, right? But we have a really deep roots in the Finnish American community. FinnFest is turning 40 this year. So, it's kind of a mixed bag, I think. With the sad news of the closure of the university, there's also sort of a push for sort of a rebirth, a renewal, 40 years of FinnFest, 70 years of Finlandia Foundation National. And the fact that you're all in this room and we don't have any more seating is something that speaks volumes to me about the commitment that the board has made to Finnish America. So I want to really stress that leadership piece and thank Tim and Anne-Mari for being on the task force. The board decided, as Anne-Mari said, unanimously to take on this project, and that has involved a lot of behind-the-scenes work. Secondly, I wanted today to also, because it's about people, right? If there's objects are objects, but if you don't have people that care, who will care, right? In this room, we have people that care. I want to acknowledge the staff as well. We're a small staff. We recently just tripled our numbers. But we've got Jessica, Ann, and Kath Uusitalo here. A huge round of applause to them. They have been foundational in making this project happen. The video that we saw, Jessica conducted the interviews. Kath helped to write the script for that. And I am just, they're putting in, they're burning the midnight oil along with all of us. We also have a couple board members in here. So I know Betsy might be in here. I thought I saw her come in at one point. Betsy's at least at FinnFest. Hillary Virtanen is here as well. So we have a pretty good committed group here today. So myself, I'm in the Finnish American community, but I'm sort of new to the upper Midwest Finnish community. I'm from Montana. Is anyone from Montana here? Wow. Okay, wow. I went out on a limb there. We have an Idaho, though. I know there's Idaho here. We all know who's from Idaho. Yeah. So coming into this, I'm getting to learn a lot, and I've met so many of you, and I look forward to meeting more of you in this role. So how many of you in this room have actually been to the Finnish American Heritage Center in Hancock? Wow. I won't ask who hasn't been there. Okay. But I am going next week, so there is that. And how many of you have family history or anything represented from your family past at the Heritage Center in Hancock? So that's a pretty healthy portion of the people, and I imagine there's many more who aren't at FinnFest in the upper Midwest and elsewhere. Like David said, we got also emails from all over the country. Jessica answers the phone sometimes at the office there. Well, she answers all the time, but we don't get a ton of calls. And there's been a lot of inquiry about this. So we get a lot of questions about that all come from a committed place of concern and support, and we are appreciative of everyone who reaches out to talk to us. And we often get a lot of different questions, and I'm here to address a couple of those. The first question we get often is sort of, why will it stay in Hancock? Will it be moved somewhere? We've gotten suggestions to potentially move it elsewhere. And those are all very valid concerns, because this is, like I said, sort of a rebirth, a chance to start something new. And I want to bring it back to the point I said earlier about people. People and place matter to us very deeply. This is a collection that is national or even North American in scope, but it comes out of, its roots are very set in the Upper Peninsula in Hancock. And it would be a mistake to uproot that and try to take that somewhere else right now. Our goal, and we've used this phrase before, sort of, emergency mode. We also don't have endless resources, right? So the people, the place is important, but also resources. How many of you live in Washington, D.C.? Yeah, because you can't afford it. I can't afford it. That is what we run into. In the upper Midwest, in the Upper Peninsula, we are very set there. The community is supportive. We've seen that. We hear that continuously, and we're convinced that what we're doing now to keep it there is the right thing to do. And in the longer term, bringing the Finnish American history out of Hancock to the world through there's a lot of ways to do that. In the video, you heard about virtual programming. There's virtual options these days. We grew as an organization through COVID because of the virtual presence. We can do that as well with the Heritage Center and the art gallery and the folk school. So we're really convinced of that, and we've seen that. So bringing the story based in Hancock to the world is something that we're really focused on. In the long term, reaching out across the Nordic community, we have a range of Nordic museums and institutions in the U.S. who also, they highlight Swedish history, they highlight Danish, Norwegian history, and we fit into that wider story as well. So I can't tell you when we're reaching out to other Nordic institutions how ready they are to help. We don't know yet how they can help because we're dealing with some front burner issues in a lot of ways, but we've been told that there's support in the community, and we've seen that. So that kind of addresses that question. And I also I alluded to it earlier, we have new colleagues, right? So Jessica and Kath and myself, we're the Finlandia Foundation staff, and we now have more colleagues in the room. David, we've got Phyllis and Carrie and Claire and April, and the whole team there is now we're colleagues and employees of Finlandia Foundation National, and we're convinced that we're able to bring that team and the expertise together to form something new and build on the history that's been settled there. So that is kind of the main questions I wanted to address, but we'll have comments from the audience a little bit later, so we hope to also hear from you, especially what this means to you and what you have at stake at the Heritage Center. I know a lot of you are deeply concerned about that, and that your presence here today shows that. So I want to thank you all for being here. Again, a huge thanks to FinnFest and to everybody for supporting this. And for the rest of the story, or the continuation, I'll pass it on to Tim.
Okay. Thanks, Tommy. I have to say that I have never been more proud of the Finlandia Foundation National than I am right now at this moment. Really. We have amazing leadership, I will say. Anne-Mari has been a fantastic leader throughout this process. The board has truly rallied. So when she called that emergency meeting, we had very little notice, but we all knew what it was about. And there are 18 board members. You can pretty much rest assured in a group of 18 Finns, there's going to be 18 different opinions, right? So going into that meeting, I wasn't sure what to expect of whether we would have consensus agreement amongst all of us about that this was something important to do. I knew that I felt this was something very important that we had to do, but you never know going in. I will tell you that that board was very determined, was very resolute, and was unanimous in their support that this was something that we all had to do to preserve our common heritage. Once again, you saw in that video why this is important. What we are talking about right now is the largest collection of Finnish American textiles, the largest collection of Finnish American glassware in the United States, the largest collection of Finnish folk art, the largest collection of Finnish and Finnish American books, a whole series of oral histories of Finnish Americans just like us, telling their history, telling their stories, why they came to America, the experience that they had. We could not bear the thought of all of that being lost, because this has value to us. But from a monetary standpoint, and the receiver is just looking at these things as how much can you sell them for, it doesn't have much value monetarily. So those things likely would have been either discarded, dispersed, or sold at auction. The archive has some really, really amazing things, and I want to make sure that we all are aware of this. In 1939, there was the World's Fair in New York. at that World's Fair, there was a Finnish pavilion. That Finnish pavilion was designed by Alvar Aalto. All of the planning documents for that World's Fair, for that Finnish pavilion, are there at the Heritage Center. That's really significant. During World War II, President Herbert Hoover led the Help Finland humanitarian effort. Because remember, at that point in the war, Finland was on the wrong side, we shall say, right? Fighting against Russia, which at that point was our ally. And there was a humanitarian effort across the country led by President Herbert Hoover that raised $3 million in humanitarian aid. That's for food, for medicine, for clothing, and the like. That's the equivalent of $50 million in today's dollars. The records from that effort are there at the Heritage Center. All of that stuff, which includes all of the newspapers from way back when, going into the 1800s, all of the records from the Suomi Synod, from the Lutheran Church that was part of America, all of those records are there. All of those in a bankruptcy, in a receivership, are subject to auction. The university thus far has had 2 auctions, 2 very extensive auctions. It'd break your heart. They sold all of the lab equipment. They sold the football jerseys, the ones that had the kids' names on the backs of the jerseys. They sold all of the books in the bookstore by the yard. You could have bought yards of books from the library. Yeah, from the library. Or library, not the bookstore, the library. How sad is that? We were able to protect all of the contents of the Heritage Center because of our action, and that is really important. But we've done this at a cost and a risk. I want to be clear about this, because I don't have to tell you this was in nobody's budget. Right? This was not something we had planned for. This was not something that we anticipated. We have, our plans for grants and scholarships and all of the things that we do. So to help fund this, we have very quietly, and I will say this once again, very quietly, been reaching out to various different individuals, organizations to help with the funding of this project. And we're going to keep this in the family, right? We're not going to spread this around. Because one of the things we don't want the receiver to know is that we're raising money for this, right? Because his job is to maximize as much as he possibly can to pay off the debts that exist there. So if we come out and say, we've raised a bunch of money, he's just going to charge us more. But we've been very quiet. We think that all of these things together, so the archives, the building, digitizing these records, and building an endowment to keep them going, is going to cost somewhere upwards of $3 million. Okay? So $3 million is what we're looking for. But I think this comes and strikes at the heart of Finnish America in such a way that I think all of us want to support this in some way, shape, or form. We want to make sure that this goes on in perpetuity. I want to recognize a particular group of people who are here from Florida because they provided the cornerstone gift. When we started having these discussions very early on, many of you know that unfortunately the Kerhotalo, the Finnish hall in Florida, had to be sold. And they were deciding what we should do with these proceeds. They have dedicated and honored us with a gift up to $1 million to start this effort. It is our cornerstone gift, and I want to recognize Gaia Kalervo, Carlo Kalervo, Eva Repo, Kari Repo, Barry Haney Luoma, who are all members of the board. If you want to just stand or wave, and we can celebrate you. For making that decision. Thank you very much. So we are underway, and we have also received gifts of $250,000 from a woman in New York, $100,000 from a gentleman in Washington, D.C. We're all banding together to make this happen. And I know that I want to be a part of this. We hope that you all will as well. We certainly are going to be reaching out to all of Finnish America to support this. And so we ask that you consider joining with us. I know, like I said, I think I want to be a part of this. I hope you all want to be a part of this as well. I hope we all want to be able to share that we had a role, whatever that role was, in preserving our collective Finnish history that's there. You have pledge forms if you are anxious to do this right now, on your tables. There's also an opportunity to donate online to be a part of this effort. We have magazines that also have envelopes, so we would encourage you to really participate with us because we have one chance at this. We have one moment to get this right. If we don't get it right, we will never see this collection, this group come together again. And so, as Anne-Mari said, failure is not an option. So, thank you.